What an absolutely fantastic series the Justice League is. We'll talk about it in just a second here. Justice League came from a much better time in DC when heroics were still on full display as they actually should be, as opposed to today where a lot of today's DC doesn't even know the meaning of heroics. Justice League was a continuation of the established DC animated universe by Bruce Timm, starting with Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and Batman Beyond. There was also the Batman Superman Adventures, which I think was a combination of the two. It was a combination of episodes of the two shows. I don't fully remember how it was. I was just reminded that it existed the other day. And it existed for, I think, a brief period of time. But that stuff was so insanely popular, and it was a gateway for my generation into DC. Because I didn't grow up reading comic books. I didn't start reading comic books until I was in high school. A group of friends of mine from church were all reading comic books, and they were all into DC, and I could see why, because they're some of the best stories ever told, and I had known that from the animated universe, and man, the Justice League was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. This show, I don't know if it won any awards. It should have won an Emmy. It really should have. From Justice League to Justice League Unlimited, it was such a wonderful display of those heroes. And what I loved the most about Justice League was it felt mature, but it was also lighthearted at times. It didn't feel like the interpersonal stuff was very much today slice of life, sort of campy and hokey and just dumb. It just felt real. The interpersonal relationships didn't feel ham-fisted or forced in. You spent enough time with these characters to know who they were. You knew who Batman and Superman were from their respective series, but you didn't know Hawkgirl. You didn't know Martian Manhunter. You didn't know John Stewart Green Lantern. You didn't know that version of Aquaman, you know? You didn't know The Flash unless you had seen the 90s show, which I hadn't. I think that was my first introduction to Flash in an animated sense, but I think I had heard of him prior, but maybe I hadn't. Maybe that was my first introduction to the Flash, and that was Wally West Flash, and boy, what a Flash. Everybody's like, oh, Grant Gustin is the definitive Flash. Bullcrap. The DC Animated Universe Flash was awesome. I loved him. Now, he had been in Superman the Animated Series, the episode where they did the charity race, which is a fantastic episode. But boy, did he really shine in the Justice League series. Oh, man. He was amazing. I loved that version of Wally West. It was great. It was absolutely great. And I loved that Green Lantern. Green Lantern, John Stewart Green Lantern felt amazing. They could have went with Hal Jordan, but John Stewart became my favorite Green Lantern because of that series, because he was so stoic and he was a leader, he was serious, he was competent. He was voiced by, I believe, Phil Lamar, and he did a fantastic job. Oh man, they changed his design. He got older. He bald a bit towards the end, but he still was just an awesome hero. He didn't feel any weaker than anybody else because of his power ring or anything like that. His powers were awesome. Again, one of my first exposures to Green Lantern was due to this series. And same with Hawkgirl. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, she's just got wings and a mace. But no, she was... Again, these were all founding members of that version of the Justice League for a reason. And they all proved why they were there. Wonder Woman was fantastic. It was really Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were the pinnacle. They were the top trio. And it was very easy to see why. They were the most powerful heroes on that team, technically. And it just was spectacular. Martian Manhunter was great. His backstory was so tragic, it really made you feel. And then Aquaman was kind of in and out from what I remember. I don't think he ever really an official member by that point, but their portrayal of Aquaman was fantastic. There weren't many Aquaman jokes after that. There really weren't. He was a good portrayal of Aquaman, really good. Um, let me think. Who else was prominently portrayed? Because there was a lot of heroes that were in and out. I believe Zatanna made an appearance. Doctor Fate, Edragon. Um, who else? We saw Star Sapphire. She was actually a villain in this series, which was a bit interesting. Um, I don't even know if she was called Star Sapphire. She might have been, and I don't know if it was Carol Ferris or not. But either way, first exposure to Star Sapphire. Um, a lot of different villains. I think Joker made a couple of appearances. Lex Luthor. Uh, Darkseid at one point, I think. Was Doomsday in it at one point, or was that Superman the Animated Series? I don't remember. Shazam was in it. I remember Shazam. That was a really cool the episode I was thinking of where he when he goes back and forth with Superman. Oh man, that's awesome. He was still called Captain Marvel at the time, I believe. Let's see. There's just so many heroes featured prominently, and especially when it became Justice League Unlimited, it became that's when the show opened up to more DC characters. It was just fantastic, guys. It was during a time when DC actually cared about all of these heroes, and they were all written so incredibly well, and I loved it. I can't say enough good about the original Justice League. I mean, just talking about it makes me want to go through it again. I'm still thinking about it in my mind because it's been a couple of years since I've gone from the original Justice League through to Unlimited. It's been a really long time, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think it's on Max now, but oh man, just it's the type of show that makes you fall in love with DC and makes you want to read comics and enjoy those heroes. But sadly, in the 21st century, in 2023, I don't touch new comics. Honestly, I wouldn't either. Because it just. I don't know why I said it that way, but I don't touch new comics. I just. No. I don't touch new comics. I barely. Occasionally, I'll look at the original DC animated movies because I think that's the last vestige of DC that still has some brains. But even those I've heard have gotten really bad. I mean, there was pretty much two strikes with me were the Killing Joke movie with that whole Barbara Gordon and Bruce Wayne romance. That was disgusting. That was vile. I wanted to throw up at that. That was what a desecration of that comic. And then there was Harley or Batman and Harley Quinn, the Bruce Timm one, which is really disappointing because again it's Bruce Timm, but that was not a good movie at all. Just and there were several other ones that I didn't see, but I just no, I can't do it with modern DC or with modern Marvel. They're just not written by people who understand heroes. None of them are. When you're trying to push a graphic novel for Batman called Gotham High, a young adult Twilight-esque novel where they're all in high school and sexy and I mean, get the fudge out of here. Who is that for? Nobody's going to read that. I mean, DC and Marvel have been run by morons for the longest time now, and they've gotten rid of legacy talent, and it's a ghost of a company. It's their own freaking fault for not respecting the legacies of these characters and trying to appeal to people who will never read comic books, ever. Oh, it's just annoying. And then Warner is still infuriatingly insisting on the live action stuff when in reality the only stuff that works in live action is Superman and Batman. The Flash was an absolute catastrophe. Didn't even bother to see it. Don't want to see it. Everything else they do is just a distortion of these beloved characters, and I'm sick and tired of it. But the Justice League, Justice League was during a much better time, and I can't recommend the DC animated universe enough, because the original DC animated universe, Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, Justice League Unlimited, fantastic series that you should watch. You should watch all of them. As many of them as you can, you absolutely should watch them. I think that they are fantastic. They really are. I don't think it gets much better than the stuff that Bruce Timm did or was involved with. I really don't. It was true, honest heroism and wonderful portrayals of these heroes, wonderful introduction to these heroes. Yeah, it wasn't the most accurate to the comics all the time, but it didn't need to be. It was on par with what the comics were doing. That's how you adapt. You make it on par with what has been seen in the books. You pay homage to the stories in the books, you know? That's what you got to do, and that's what they were doing back in the day. So Justice League, easily 9 out of 10. 100%. This was a fantastic ensemble series. This was how you do a DC Universe property right. Loved all the heroes, loved most of the episodes. A couple were bizarre. I mean, it wasn't a perfect show, but it's definitely worth watching, and it holds up today. Absolutely wonderful. So highly recommended. Definitely a thumbs up. Not a whole lot of negatives. Nothing really worth mentioning to my memory. I still have to go back and watch it, but fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So let me know what your memories are of Justice League in the comments down below, and I will see you guys next time. This has been Super Koopa TV with another edition of Toony Talk. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.